Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody, earthlings, peeplings everywhere. We have a lot to discuss today. A lot. Firstly, thank you all very much for liking, subscribing, supporting. I really appreciate it. I think I'll probably do this one as a premiere so we can all talk about it, because a couple of subjects. We're going to talk about Harry's court case. It's one of his many. You know, I lose count of how many court cases this guy's had. I really do. Then just when I think they're all finished, and the newspapers say, no, there's another one coming up, and there's another one coming up. Oh my God. Firstly, should we go to Five Friends magazine? Did I not say yesterday she will be screaming down the telephone at them about the birthday photos? And hey presto. And I did see that a lot of you had said in the comments yesterday that apparently the photo had been taken down because Meghan and Harry ticked a box saying no, and they didn't want their pictures out there. Well, I'm sorry, I'm calling bullshit on it. Bullshit, bullshit. Biloxius Maximus. Meghan was desperate to be at that party. It is written all over her face. She was equally desperate to be photographed with Kim Kardashian and the birthday girl herself. But let's go with Five Friends magazine, shall we, and see what Meghan's mouthpiece says, because it is kind of hilarious, and let's tear it to shreds together. Why Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were deleted from Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner's birthday photo drop. The real reason, right, those first three words are a fucking lie. That's my opinion. The real reason, no, Meghan phoned up Five Friends magazine and went, breathing fire down the phone, saying, you better make me look good. This is the story I want you to put out there. And I think it's absolute bollocks from head to toe. The real reason they removed photos of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry from their social media posts celebrating Jenner's birthday has been revealed. People understands the Duke and Duchess of Sussex didn't agree to have their photos of them taken inside the party shared and checked no on a photo consent form, leading to the images posted on Instagram to be removed. Well, that's nonsense, People magazine. That is nonsense. Do they really, really, really expect any of us to believe this bullshit? Do any of you actually believe this? That Markle is such a shy, retiring type? Does anybody believe the nonsense that they wanted it pulled because it looked bad on the Remembrance Sunday? When has Markle given up two shits about Remembrance Sunday? Were they not stomping all over American graves a few years back? Were those photos pulled? No, I don't think they were they? I mean, the horse shit. I suppose there might be some gullible soul out there who believes this crap, but I don't. Fans began to speculate about why the Kardashian stars removed photos of Meghan 44 and Harry 41. I don't know why they have to keep doing that. They keep putting the ages there. From Instagram after the couple attended the lavish James Bond style party. Well, why did Meghan dress like that? She's like, that's a far cry from a Bond girl, isn't it? A source previously told People that Meghan and Harry arrived hand in hand and looked very happy at the party. Why does they even need a source to embellish on that? And then how glamorous Meghan looked, and how Harry wore a poppy. The couple drew criticism for their glamorous night out, which came on the eve of Remembrance Sunday, the most solemn occasions of royal family's calendar. Well, I mean, then the news would break, you know, on the actual day, because, you know, the Sunday papers. They were among A-list celebrity guests. I know. Maybe Mariah Carey, yeah. Adele, I'm not actually sure who she is. She was a neighbour or something, wasn't she, of theirs? Singer, maybe? Let's go to the comments section, shall we? My favourite place. Always a mess with the sloppy Sussexes, says Lena Contance. Maria, lol, I don't believe for 1 second H&M checked no not to have their pictures released. Most likely is the Kardashians didn't want pictures of themselves with H&M. I'm right there with you, Maria. I'm right there with you. MN girl, not sure why they would go out in public if they don't want to be seen. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're talking about a woman, right, who gets TMZ to pap her in car parks when she's not getting attention. And she finally bags an invite to something that, you know, even someone as unsavvy as me, I recognise the people in the pictures and I think, oh yeah, they're famous. I know they are. She finally gets that. She finally gets her picture with them and she doesn't want the picture released. Bullshit. Should we just file that under bullshit file? Yeah? Should we just put that there right in the bin? It's absolute crap. I don't believe it for a second, and move on to Harry's court case. Now, this perplexes me for many reasons. Now, it's all centred around the fact that he's got this star witness. So there's a whole group of them, isn't there? There's Hugh Grant and Liz Hurley, I think, and Baroness Lawrence. And they're all suing Associated Newspapers, owner of the Daily Mail, Mail on Sunday, etc. And it all seems to be centred around this guy, Gavin Burrows, who apparently, they've got this statement, and this Gavin Burrows says he never signed it. He's saying that the signatures are fake. Now, all of the newspapers seem to be breaking this like it's a breaking story. But I was actually talking to Sue Smith last night on the phone, and I said to her, you know, am I imagining it? But I'm sure he said this in 2021. I'm sure he did, fucking years ago. And I'm sure Sue Smith covered this story. And she said, yes, I did. And yes, he did. So why is it coming as a big shocker to the mainstream media? So I've actually selected the Guardian newspaper because I know they're really pro Harry. And they're really in favour of this lawsuit and stuff. So I thought, well, let's go with that and sort of let's see it through the eyes of the other people and see if I'm missing something. So, witness in Prince Harry's case against Mail publisher says his confession was false. Gavin Burrows says signature on alleged statement is not mine. So it's not a false confession, it's a forged fucking... That's not false, my dears. That's a forgery. That's a fake document if what he's saying is true. A private investigator central to the legal action by the Duke of Sussex and others against publisher Daily Mail has claimed that his signature on an earlier statement was forged, the High Court has heard. Well, he said this in 2021. I mean, do any of you guys remember this? I definitely remember this guy, unless I'm imagining it. I remember the story coming out, and then I remember him like a day later coming out saying, no, I never worked for Associated. I was never commissioned by them. Gavin Burrows, linked to the most serious allegations of unlawful information gathering made by 7 prominent individuals, including Elton John and Doreen Lawrence, retracted his alleged confession, saying it was completely false. Burrows allegedly claimed back in 2021, witness statement, that he and his team obtained information by hacking voicemails, tapping landline phones, bugging cars. No, I remember Harry's team saying there was a statement, and I remember this guy Burrows coming out quite quickly after and saying, I never signed anything about that. So why, 4 years later, are these people reporting this like it's breaking news? But I mean, it's kind of funny that Harry or any of the others would waste their time or money. I mean, I actually thought Hugh Grant and the others had bailed and settled. I thought that a lot of them had thought, fuck this shit off. Let Harry deal with this. He's got enough money. Oh my God, he's looking up the arse of another very, very, very expensive legal bill. I mean, this is enough to keep the guy awake all night, every night, isn't it? Never mind his wife out there on using the plastic. ANL is accused by the group of carrying out or commissioning unlawful activities such as hiring private investigators to place listening devices in cars, blagging private records and access. This is all criminal activity they're talking about. This is that whole paragraph. Associated Newspapers is accused by the group of carrying out or commissioning unlawful activities such as hiring private investigators to place listening devices inside cars, blagging private records, accessing private phone conversations. ANL denies it all. Well, that whole paragraph is criminal. If that were true, there'd be a police investigation. I mean, there really, really would. I know obviously I don't have a great deal of faith in them, but there would be a police criminal investigation. These are just allegations by the group. I don't see how this can succeed at all. Anyway. And then the guy, the major guy has said, I don't know what you're talking about. That's a forged signature. I mean, that's a hell of an allegation, isn't it? That's a forged signature. I mean, what on earth is the High Court going to do? They're not going to be happy. Or are they going to go down the misremembering, route? No, let's make every little excuse under the sun for this shit. I'd be amazed if David Sherborne gets any more clients after this. I definitely wouldn't use him. Not in a million years. 5 of the claimants have told the High Court they embarked on the legal action against A&L based on evidence apparently obtained by Burrows. Well, I'll bet there's some colourful conversations going on behind the scenes right now. Burrows previously retracted his alleged statement in 2023. Yeah, it could have been 2023, but I think it was before that. In a fresh 30-page witness statement made on the 25th of September 2025 and released by the High Court on Tuesday, he restated his denial, saying he had never carried out any illegal activity on behalf of A&L. I mean, I'm interested to see where this article goes. I'm interested to see how, are the Guardian going to do some sort of gymnastics to get around this? And I have not read this before. This is all completely unrehearsed and totally unprofessional, I'll have you know. In the news statement, he claimed he did not recognise the purported witness statement on 16th August 2021. 2021, wasn't that the year of Boozy? Wasn't he writing it, and Scobie and all that, and Warby and misremembering, and oh my goodness, so much water has gone under this filthy, murky bridge, hasn't it? He did not accept the accuracy of much of the contents. The signature is not mine. He said he believed it was prepared by others. Burrows said, I do not recognise the earlier witness statement from 16th August 2021, and I believe that my signature on that document is a forgery. A lot of it is not written in my type of language. Further, the contents of the statement are substantially untrue. He added that he had never carried out work for the Mail on Sunday or the Daily Mail, apart from one job relating to Sir Richard Branson that did not involve any illegal activity. Burrows said he was on heavy painkillers. Hang on a minute. I mean, I'm not defending Harry, but hang on. Is this some of the Guardian's gymnastics? I was on heavy painkillers and I might have signed it, but I'm not sure. Is that where we're going? Burrows said he was on heavy painkillers after a serious physical assault and drinking heavily when he was approached by Graham Johnson, a former journalist and whistleblower convicted of phone hacking, who wanted to help with research on phone hacking claims against newspapers. He was introduced to a colleague, Dan Waddell, who was described as a paralegal and was paid £600 a time for advice. His statement said he was told claims against newspapers were likely to settle out of court, as the papers did not want the publicity or cost of court case, and were described to him as a perfect scam and a gravy train. There's some truth in that, because Graham put in a claim against, now, it was the Daily Mail. No, I'm not sure it was the Daily Mail, actually. It might have been, but I can't really remember. And the Mirror. And I think there was another one, the Observer. And he put in a claim on the online Nottingham. I think it's Nottingham. It could be Northamptonshire. I always get them muddled. I know they're nowhere near. He put in a claim for £500, and they just settled. The first one just settled. And so he put in 2 more claims, and again, they just settled. But I mean, we're talking 500 quid. And people would. This happens a lot with a lot of cases. People feel, if it's not really a large amount of money, it's just quicker, cheap, for the sake of nuisance. Isn't that awful? Whereas, well, I mean, we had a big beef with the Daily Mail. We had a big beef with the Mirror, particularly. And they had used photographs of Graham's without his permission. That was sort of the basis. That was the only way we could get the legal claim through. So, I mean, to look on doing something like this as the perfect scam and a gravy train, well, I think that's a hell of a gamble. Because the defendant may well, as they have done in this case, say, no, fuck you, let's go to court. Let's fight this out in front of a judge. So, I mean, I just can't, I find it very difficult to believe that an expensive barrister like Sherborne could be this stupid. Or, I mean, off his tits on something. I find that very, very difficult. I mean, Harry should sue Sherborne, really, for bad advice. Malpractice or something. Burrows, who said he had stopped working for newspapers in 2003, said he had told Johnson 100 times that A&L were not one of my clients. Well, I mean, I'm inclined to believe Burrows because I distinctly remember years ago the guy saying this. But do you know what? Come to think of it, and I'd have to go back and look at some old videos, I seem to remember that when this guy denied that he'd signed this, that wasn't actually in the mainstream media. That was YouTubers were covering that story. Not the mainstream media. People, go away fly. People like Sue Smith were covering this story. So I'm not sure that the mainstream media should have been aware. I'm sure they were aware. They just decided they didn't want to mention it back then. That they have to mention it now because it's been put before a judge. And can you imagine the look on the judge's face? I would love to see that. Oh, wouldn't it be fun? No, it won't be Warby because he's Court of Appeal. But it would be fucking hilarious, wouldn't it? See old Warby scratching his wig and thinking, how the hell am I going to lie my ass off to get these fuckers out of the shit? Again. I'm never going to let that guy forget what he did. I'm never, ever, ever going to let him forget that. Burrows was initially a witness for the group, which also includes David Furnish, Elizabeth Hurley, Sadie Frost and Simon Hughes, but is now the subject of legal arguments about whether or not he will be called as a witness for the trial. Well, my advice, Harry, for what it's worth, and it's completely free, you don't have to pay me anything like Sherborne. Drop this case and definitely don't call this guy as a witness. He'd be what I would call a hostile witness, Harry. I think he's going to be quite hostile to your cause. I wouldn't fucking do it if I were you. And there you go, Windsor, free of charge. No need to say thank you. Anthony White, KC for A&L, asked the court to allow him to cross-examine Burrows, while David Sherborne for the group made an application to call his evidence as hearsay. Well, hearsay's not allowed. I mean, I was just a basic law student, but that was like kind of one of the first things that I had to learn. What is hearsay? You know, it's gossip, it's repeated, So, I mean, Mr. Justice Nicklin gave Sherborne 7 days to decide whether he wanted to apply for a witness summons to call Burrows, and told him if Burrows gave evidence that was inconsistent with the evidence they had obtained, then he could apply to treat him as a hostile. I hadn't read that bit before. So there you go. Legal genius here. See, you don't need to pay any lawyers. Just come watch my channel. Put your questions in the comments. I'm joking. Fuck's sake, don't ever take my legal advice. A further pre-trial hearing in the case is expected to take place before the end of the year. Well, Harry. What a quandary. Do you think Harry's even aware? Or do you think he's just coked off his face or eating chocolate mushrooms somewhere and he hasn't got a bloody clue? My God, if that's the case, he's got a hell of a nightmare to wake up to, hasn't he? Apart from waking up looking at her every day. My God. I mean, I do fear a little bit that Harry might actually do something silly in the end, because his life is an absolute catastrophe, isn't it? I mean, it's a disaster. The guy lurches from one disaster to another. I wouldn't mind betting that this case, and possibly other cases of his, will end up in law books for future law students. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I mean, it's catastrophic. What's Sherborne thinking? I mean, let me Google Sherborne. Is it like, has David, has he been out on the piss? You know, some newspaper backed him and he's been out on the Raz overnight. Let's have a look. In the past hour, David Sherborne, no stories. No, not a single story on David Sherborne in the past hour. Past 24 hours. Oh, People magazine. They've even covered it. I mean, there's a GB News one here. Prince Harry legal battle risks collapse. Risks collapse. GB News. You think? Risks? I'd say it's probably a certainty. most likely, just in my stupid opinion. Oh, there are comments on this Five Friends magazine one. So Five Friends, they've printed this. They've printed this stuff about Gavin Burrows saying, you know, I mean, if this Gavin Burrows is lying and he did sign it, he's going to get, I bet he'll get done for perjury because he's not important. Do you know what I mean? Like Harry and Meghan. There's a comment here. SS1213. This is open justice, Mr. Sherborne, in quotes. The judge responded per the paper. Love this comment from the judge. This is open justice. Well, yeah, I bet they didn't want anybody to know about that. Catherine says, remember who we're dealing with. A spoiled mental man-child, no matter when his feelings were hurt or what age, he wants revenge. The sad part, the lawyers love him. I wonder how many houses they've purchased. Well, will be gratefully have a client like Harry. So sick of reading about how reporters hack into celebrities, royal people, stealing info. Well, Irish, the whole point of the article is the guy's saying he didn't do it. Hollywood, foo rabbed, says Hollywood Harry is going to be so disappointed. I can see Harry being interviewed at some point and him saying, I wish someone had told me this back in 2021, that the guy said it never happened and he never worked for Associated Newspaper. I reckon, I can imagine Harry giving an interview saying that, like he did over the security. I wish someone had told me that I was never going to get my security back. I wish someone had told me I was never going to win this. Well, that someone who should have told him is called David Sherborne. That's the someone I think Harry needs to pick a fight with. Oh my God, can you imagine if Harry starts trying to sue David Sherborne? Oh, that would be the trial of the century, wouldn't it? Oh my God. I mean, I would imagine there are people who work in Buckingham Palace who are sniggering about this. Not to be cruel, but I wouldn't mind betting there's the odd palace PR people and stuff just scratching their head thinking, this is unbelievable. But I mean, it serves him fucking right. He's an idiot. As we've all heard the rumours about the alleged bullying, etc., etc. What other articles have people got on? I mean, he looks such a numpty, doesn't he? Oh, Harry. And all this from marrying the wrong girl. And as I have pointed out before, you see, if you get into Harry's mindset, why he married Meghan, I believe that he was always in love with Catherine. I think he really looked up to Catherine and William and he wanted what they had. And being the pea-brain he is, I think when he met Meghan, she had long dark hair and he looked at her and thought, you've got long dark hair, Catherine's got long dark hair, you're bound to be exactly the same. And that's why he wanted to marry her. I honestly believe that. I really do. How could they have let that marriage go ahead? I mean, surely to goodness there must have been some way they could have prevented it or thrown a spanner in the works. It's awful, isn't it? And I mean, I've never really seen before in my lifetime how a marriage can, I've never looked at it that way before, because you know, David and Wallace, that was way before my time, before I was born, so I wasn't sort of current watching it, but to see something in my lifetime I've never really noticed before, how marrying the wrong person can literally destroy someone's life. I mean, he has lost everything. Dignity, pride. That his biggest fear is people thinking him stupid. And here we are, he's done nothing but advertise how dim he is for the last 5 years. He's lost all his friends. Although I have heard he's got a few old friends who are sort of, they're ready on the end of a phone should he get, you know, suicidal. They're ready and willing to help pick up the pieces And actually, to a certain extent, I've always believed that if it became obvious to William that she was, you know, his life was going to end and that the bitch is going to really stick the knife, and I've always felt William would have people swoop in and save him at the last minute, keeping an eye on him, sort of like a guardian angel. Not that William owes him anything, but he is still his little brother. There will still be emotional ties, and I'm sure William will still care very much. I'm sure it's been very, very painful for him to watch, and for Catherine, and of course for Charles, for Camilla, for all of them, to watch this pure act of self-destruction going on all these long years. What a shame. Mind you, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy, could it? No, don't, Fiona, don't. I mean, the legal bill that this guy's looking up the arse of is going to be, I think it's actually an unimaginable figure. I exaggerate not. When it comes to court cases, right, as you all know, I sued some people once, and what happens during the process is either party can call what they call an application, which is basically a hearing. You fill a form in. There's a whole thing called, oh God, I can't remember the name of it. It's to do with, Lord Wolfe wrote it. No, it's the protocol of how court cases are conducted, civil procedure. You used to have to buy the book, very expensive, but these days they've got it online, the up-to-date version. So you can look up UK civil procedure, and then it tells you all the different, you know, what you do in the eventuality of this, the eventuality of that. It's very much based around encouraging people to mediate and try and sort their shit out without the need to go before a court. And so my defendants lied through their arse. I mean, they lied. They lied so badly. One of the lies that they told, I mean, this very boat I'm sitting on was in Gibraltar, and it had been sitting there for 20 years. And one of my defendants said, oh, he'd never seen this boat before we turned up. He said, we sailed it from Brighton. He put that in an affidavit, put his hand on the Bible, swore to God that it was true. This was just one of his lies, that we sailed this boat from Brighton to Gibraltar. Well, Google Earth Images had a different opinion. Yes, I printed them off. And the previous owner, I emailed and said, do you have any receipts for old electricity bills to prove that this vessel was actually in Marina Bay and had been there for 20 years? And he said, yeah, I can dig them out. But he said, I'll tell you something else. Why don't you ask this fella who works at the marina? He'd know better than anyone. I said, well, it's funny you should say that. Funny you should say that, because he claims he'd never clapped eyes on the boat before we turned up. And he said it was a fully functioning, running vessel that had been sailed from Brighton. Well, the fella we bought the boat off burst out laughing. He said, is he on drugs or something? I said, I don't know, but he's sworn an affidavit, which is otherwise known as perjury. It's fucking lying. It's lying through your ass. Can you see now why I'm really ticky about Warby? Anyway, so I put in an application, a very cheeky, outrageous application. I applied, there were 3 defendants, and I applied to have 2 of them sent to prison for lying, and the 3rd one to be sequestrated, whatever they call it, you know, where the court takes over, they get administrators to take over their business. I mean, it's a big ask. Let's put it that way. It was a very big ask. I knew I would never win that application, and I didn't. But the judge, Mr. Adrian Jack, oh, he was bloody marvellous. He could see straight away what had gone on. Their excuse was that their client had forgotten, he'd misremembered. And after all, when he thought about it, oh yes, our boat was in his marina for 20 years before we turned up. But he misremembered. Can you now see why I fucking hate that Judge Warby coming out with that crap? Well, so the judge said, I remember he said to me, I've got the transcripts of it around here somewhere. He said to me, what do you want me to do, Mrs. Hesketh? I said, I want you to send them to prison right now. God, I did. I stood up in court and said that. Oh, God. Graham was there. And he shouted at their barrister. He said, "You stand up properly when you're speaking to me." And then he said to me, "You sit down, Mrs. Hesketh." So, I mean, the judge was on my side, that obviously in Gibraltar, powers that be, I was taking on a big property developer as someone who invests in Gibraltar. I was never going to win that particular hearing. Anyway, well, this barrister representing them, he sent me a really nasty email about an hour after that hearing. Great big long rant. And at the end he said, "I'm charging you £6,500 for wasting my time, blah, blah, blah," with that £6,500 for a half-hour fucking hearing. Which of course I never paid, because it all came to a screeching halt because I got the transcripts of the hearing. Obviously this barrister went back, he didn't tell his clients he'd been told to stand up properly and to show the court respect. He didn't mention any of that, I'm sure. I'm sure he also didn't mention to them that the judge had said, "If I catch these people lying again, Mrs. Hesketh, I will send them to prison." No, I don't suppose he did tell any of his clients those parts. So I ordered transcripts of the court hearing, and I got my highlighter pen and I highlighted all the juicy bits that I thought they needed to know. And I made copies, and Graham delivered them all by hand on Christmas Eve, so they could all have a good read from Santa Claus about how they could go to prison for telling lies. Of course, I sent their barrister a copy with a second-class postage stamp on Christmas Eve. So he didn't get it till like 7th of January. And he was hopping mad. He sent me a 5-page rant. As I recall, I think he'd used both sides of each piece of paper. And at the very end, he said, "My clients would be pleased to meet with you for mediation." And then it all came to, it was resolved as a result of that. But my God, it takes some bollocks to stand up in court and to run the risk. I mean, that was just one little hearing in Gibraltar. £6,500 costs this guy was going to put in. This is that Harry's doing this is on a global stage, God's sake, boy. He is looking at tens of millions. Never mind the alleged 12 million settlement that the late Queen gave to Geoffrey. We all know it wasn't 12 million. But I mean, never mind that. Everybody thinks that's an astonishing figure. What Harry is looking at in legal fees is well, he's been left holding the baby, I think. And actually, I mean, if I were giving Harry advice, I'd probably say to him, "You'd better threaten Sherborne and tell him to stick his legal fees up his arse," quite frankly. But Associated News, you see, if you go through civil procedure, Harry could pull out of this, but then the other side could say, "Well, we want all our costs." He'd have to negotiate something with the other side. And I mean, I can't see Associated News being kind to him, shall we say, because it will have cost them a lot of money. And of course, there's probably the odd grudge they bear here and there. So, I mean, whichever way you're looking at it, there is no way. If this guy got 10 new Netflix deals for 100 million each, I'm not sure that would cover it. I mean, I exaggerate not. The legal fees in this case are going to be blood curdling. Really, it's the type of thing where you receive news like that and you can actually feel the blood draining out, and that is what's going to happen to old H when he realises. And then, I mean, it's all on lies. I'm sure this Gavin Burrows, it was something to do with Byline Times and some dodgy bloke who'd been to prison, and it was connected to the sugars back in the day, and it was connected to Boozy somehow. I mean, I can't remember. I tell you what I might do. I might ask Sue Smith if she can go back to her archives and find the video where she covered it, because it would be kind of interesting in retrospect, wouldn't it? But I do seem to recall back in the day that the mainstream media did not cover the fact that this guy, Gavin, had said it's a lie. I never worked with them. I never signed that. But it was YouTubers that covered it. YouTubers who at the time were being, silenced, thrown off, being crushed. And yet here we are today. Harry should get his legal advice off the YouTubers, shouldn't he? He should. I bet he watches all of them. He probably doesn't understand a word we're saying. I can imagine an enormous TV screen and it all just being a blur for him. Anyway, so that's my chat for the day. Last night I watched a thingy on Sid Vicious, who very sadly died, Sex Pistols. I didn't know anything about him. You know, I remember as a kid, him and Nancy. I had no idea. I mean, what a tragic life. And he was actually a really sort of, his friend said he was, you know, a really shy, lovely boy. And it was really, you know, he got into drugs. Obviously nobody told Harry about Sid Vicious. Probably has no idea who he is. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, liking, subscribing, etc. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Well, I'll see you in the chat, and then you can all give me legal advice. We can all give you, let's all be lawyers. Let's all give each other legal advice, because we can't do any worse than Harry Windsor, can we? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. May your God be with you.